Perry looked at Della, who was very pale, and took her arm. "I am sorry that you are not feeling well, and of course we can eat in our room. You should try to eat something. Toast would be all right," he told her, and held her tight. "Just no coffee please this morning," she told him. "Count it done," he told her as he led her over to the couch to take a seat. By 10 that morning Della was starting to feel like her old self, and she went with her friends to the beach for a day of fun. They actually spent the day together, did some snorkeling, and went out on one of the glass-bottom boats that were there. The ocean was so clear and warm, it was hard to think that in just 5 days they would be back in LA, and in 7 they would be back at the office. They walked along the water's edge and held hands. There was a photographer there from the cruise ship who took more pictures of them, and he even got a picture of the 4 friends together. The ship was leaving at 5 that afternoon, so when they saw that it was 4 already, they headed back toward the ship with heavy hearts. The honeymoon was starting its last stage, and neither one of the 4 friends wanted it to end. Tradition was told that if you throw a lei out into the harbor and it comes back, you will be back. If it goes out to sea, you will not come back. Della and Perry, along with their friends, all threw their lei in the water and were surprised to find that all 4 leis returned. Someday they would all be back, and maybe this time together. The party at the end of the island cruise was almost as large as the party the night that they had left the mainland of the United States. The crowd up on the top deck was unbelievable, and the music and dancing was wonderful. Della stuck to her non-alcoholic drink and settled down to have a relaxing time watching the party. She did get up and do some dancing, and she and Perry held each other close. Carla won the limbo contest and got a certificate for another cruise with a value of $200. She and Barry were thrilled, and Della gave her a big hug of congratulations. It was now midnight, and Della was ready to go to bed. Perry looked over at his wife and said, "Hon, it's midnight and we will still be on the ship in the morning. Why don't we go back to our room? I am okay if you want to stay a little longer, it is all right with me. We are having so much fun." Della told him, and then gave him a quick squeeze of his hand. Perry looked at her and said, "No, I want to spend some private time with my wife. I have had enough. Let's go." And with that they said good night to their friends, and they headed back to their suite. Della went in to get into her night clothes and get ready for bed while Perry waited his turn. The room was just too small for the 2 of them. When she had finished, he went in and she laid down on the bed. She could hear him in there humming and brushing his teeth, and she smiled. This was what their life was going to be like from now on, she was sure. But she could not wait to get back to the office. And another mystery. The cruise had been a break that they both had badly needed, but now she was ready to go. Perry came in and saw her in the bed with a smile on her face. He crawled under the covers with her and smiled, "Penny, for your thoughts," and then he kissed her on the lips tenderly. Della smiled at him and told him, "I was just thinking that I missed work, believe it or not. Oh, don't get me wrong, this has been the best trip that I could imagine, but I miss the excitement of the office and the mysteries," she told him as she kissed him back. "I must admit that sometimes I feel the same way. This is our last 7 days before we go back to work. There will be plenty waiting for us of that. I am positive." And with that he turned out the lights. The next morning Perry got up and did some of his office work that he had been sent while the ship had been at dock. There was not that much work, but there was some, and he was happy to have something to do. Della and Carla went shopping, and then they were going to get their hair and nails done. That would take most of the morning, and he was glad to get back to some work. Della and Carla meanwhile went shopping. There were so many things for them to choose from, and Della bought her mother a pair of diamond earrings to go with her necklace. For Lori and Mike she bought them a beautiful pitcher with matching glasses for the many times that they would be sitting out on her patio enjoying lemonade. Della was glad to find that. Then she bought all of the girls who were in her wedding their favorite perfumes and a nice thank you card For the girls in the office, each one of them got a box of chocolate and a nice bonus check from them for their extra work that had been performed while Della and Perry on their honeymoon. Carla bought something for everyone in her wedding also, and something for her and Barry's parents also. The two of them were laughing and enjoying the time. Fortunately, the stores would deliver their purchases to their rooms because there was a lot for them to carry. The two friends were laughing as they walked down the hallway to the hair and nail salon. They had an appointment for 11 and it was 5 minutes to the hour. They had a great time and Della had been dying to ask Carla something. "Carla, I know that you are a nurse. Do you know how they determine roughly when my baby is due?" she asked her friend. "Of course I know. What was the day of your last period?" Carla asked her. "It was August 14th. Della thought and told her. "What they do is subtract 3 months and add 7 days. That means that your baby is due May 21st. It is not always right on, but it is what the doctors have used as a calculation date for years." Carla smiled. May 21st St. It sounds so far away. Della thought to herself out loud. "Don't worry, the time will come quicker than you think. I am so happy for you," Carla told her, and then she gave her friend a hug. The girls parted ways and headed back to their rooms. It was now just after 12 and they decided to go to bingo at 2. If for some reason the men had other plans, they would call each other, but for now after lunch they were going to play a game of bingo. Della smiled as she saw Perry busy at his desk working. He looked the way that she always thought of him, hard at work signing tons and tons of documents. He had not asked for her help, but she was going to offer as soon as she got in. Perry looked up to see Della coming into the room and smiled. "How did everything go today?" "We shopped and shopped, then we had a manicure and pedicure. We decided that we didn't have the time to do our hair this morning and we will have it done tomorrow instead. How is everything with your work?" "Can I help?" she asked him as she gave him a kiss on the cheek. "Carla told me something today. She says that our baby is due around May 21 St. This was the first time that he had actually thought about the date. Perry was so excited about the news. He reached around and put his arm around her. "I cannot wait for that day. May 21st St. sounds like a great day to me. The spring will be here and we will have a baby. Everything is set here. I don't need anything done right now, Della. Right now I am getting hungry." "How about you?" he asked her. "We can go and have a celebration together." "Once more. I am very hungry. Shopping does that to a woman, you know. They will be delivering the packages up to our suite sometime this afternoon. If you don't mind, Carla and I are going to bingo at 2. I would love your company," Della told him. "No, actually Barry has asked me to go down and get a steam and a massage ourselves. This old body could use a good rub down too." "We knew that. Bingo was at 2, so we made an appointment for the same time, if you don't mind," he told her as he wrapped his arms around her waist. "No, of course I don't mind. When we finish bingo, Carla and I will go up top and do some swimming. If you want to, you can meet us up on the top deck when you are ready. I haven't been in the pool for a few days and feel like a good dip." She smiled down at him. By the time the game was over and Barry and Perry came back up on deck, it was after 4. They found Della and Carla in the pool having a good time. And they decided to go in and join in the fun. They stayed in the pool until a little after 5 and then headed back to their rooms. Della was ready for dinner, and that night there was going to be another show that she and Perry had thought they might enjoy. So, she got dressed up in her formal gown and he dressed up in one of his best suits. They looked quite the couple as they walked into the restaurant. The dinner was great and they then headed out to the theater. Perry and Della had a great night and headed back to their suite at just 11 that evening. They went to the suite and jumped right into the hot tub. They enjoyed the tub and talked about their new house and how anxious they were to get home. There was a nice hot tub there. Della thought. Of all the work that was left to do on their new home. They still had boxes of things to take care of, and she was sure that there was a lot to clean too. She did not know that her mother and mother-in-law and Lori had worked feverishly to get the house in tip-top shape. But Perry had also thought about the work the house needed and had contacted a cleaning crew. The company that he hired would clean it top to bottom. And they would make sure that the lawn and the pool was ready also. The house would be ready when they got home. He wanted to relax, not work all day on Sunday. The next day was the same, with Della and Perry doing work for about 2 hours, and then she headed out to get her hair done with Carla. They would go to bingo afterward, and Barry and Perry were going to join them that afternoon. It was very hot outside and Della had gotten a sunburn on the back of her neck. She did not want to go swimming that day because of the burn. They played bingo and then went to watch the men play poker. Neither one of the girls' men were very good at the game and they were both losing. As Perry looked up and saw them enter the room, he nudged his friend Barry and they stopped after the hand had completed. Perry looked at his watch and was surprised to see that it was already 3:30, and he was glad to get away from the table. Because of her sunburn, Della and Perry declined Carla and Barry's invitation to come up on deck. Carla knew of Della's burn and didn't blame her. She had been very sore at the hair salon. The Masons decided that it would be a good day to enjoy their private balcony. So they took their seats outside of their suite and just enjoyed the view. As they sat there, they actually passed another cruise ship. The passengers all waved at the people on their cruise ship, and Della and Perry waved at them with big smiles. That ship was on the way to the trip that they had just taken, and Della and Perry knew that they were on their way to fun. Della and Perry went out to their favorite restaurant on the ship and ate a good meal. When they were through, they then went out on deck to enjoy the music and the people. Without the sun shining so bright, Della could go out and not get another burn. They both enjoyed the party once more, and were glad when Barry and Carla came over to their table. The four of them had a great time together on the deck and danced once again. They only had 2 days and 1 night left on the cruise. The next day, Della and Perry spent the day seeing everything that they had not seen on the ship for the past few weeks. They were surprised that there were parts that they had not seen. There were lots of things on the ship that they had missed. There was one part where the children went. For the most part, there was a slide and numerous games for the children to play, and the two newlyweds enjoyed watching them play. They went up on deck for a short time and were joined by their friends Barry and Carla. There was another trivia contest starting in one of the many theaters on the ship that was to begin at 2. Della loved the trivia game and the four of them made a good group. They had won the last 2 contests that they had competed in. The theater was cool and she could sit comfortably on a chair. She was no longer drinking anything but juice and water and therefore had a very clear head. The questions were mostly about sports and television, and Della was a little short on her knowledge of sports. She was all right when it came to television questions, but Carla shined when it came to them. Between everyone's knowledge, they won the trivia games once more and they received a $100 credit for on board the ship. Carla was glad about that because she had not told Barry about how much money she had spent at the store the other day. She had overspent her budget by much more than $100. Della gave her the gift certificate. Carla had really been the winner and she knew that she needed the money more than Della and Perry needed it. When Della and Perry went to their suite to get ready for dinner, Perry smiled at his wife. "That was a kind thing that you did for Carla. You were more than entitled to half of that certificate. I saw you give the certificate to her. She spent a lot of money when we were shopping and I could tell that she was getting nervous. I am fine with what I have spent and so I think that she deserves the money," Della told him with a kiss to the cheek. "That is why I love you so much." You have never questioned what or where, or how much I have spent. The two of them wanted to spend their last night on the cruise ship at their own balcony with all the amenities and a private waiter. The dinner was delicious and the sunset made the view spectacular. They ate the 5-course meal and then Della wanted to go down and play the last game of bingo on the ship. It was going to start in about 20 minutes and the grand prize was another cruise on the same ship with a value of $5,000. Della and Perry arrived just 10 minutes before the game started and found Barry and Carla, who were already seated at their regular table. They each smiled and took their seats. As the game went on, nobody at the table even waited. The last game of the cruise was a cover-all with the grand prize. As they called the numbers, Perry was surprised to see that he was doing well. When he and others got down to one number, they were asked to stand up so that people could see who was waiting for just one number. He was waiting for I-22 and when it came out, Della jumped. They won the free cruise. Everyone was happy and they all laughed and enjoyed the rest of the bingo. He was given a certificate in an envelope. And they headed up on the deck for the goodbye party. That night everyone joined in on the phone and Della and Perry had one of the best times that they have ever had. The group of friends who had spent almost the last 7 weeks of the cruise together said goodbye. They would not see each other again for a long time. They made sure that they had each other's numbers and addresses and promised that they would call and see each other soon. The next morning Della and Perry were met at the ship by their limo and they headed back home. The ride was just a little over an hour away. And the city looked great to the both of them. They did not have a chance to see their friends again. Because they were going to be taking an airplane back to Boston, they were brought to the discharge center at a different time. Della took one long last look at the place that she and her husband had called home for the last 7 weeks. Perry held her tight and smiled as the two of them got into the limo on their way to their new home and life.